They always ask us, like, how do you guys manage to keep sanity and stay married, working together? And then they always add the underhanded, couldn't imagine doing that with my spouse. And you're like, oh.
A wedding couple pays you once.
A corporate client pays you for years or even decades.
It's time to leverage your creativity, knowledge, and experience in a whole new market.
Hi, I'm Don.
I'm Emily.
And we're the Mamonies.
Welcome to Hocus Focus,
the magic behind your wildly successful studio.
We've spent the last 20 years building a system to dominate the corporate market,
so we could exceed our clients' expectations from Dallas to destinations around the world.
Now we're sharing all of our secrets with you,
so you can build a life and business you truly want, doing what you really love. Okay, on with the show. You don't have your clacky thing.
I don't have my clacky thing because I forgot to pack it.
And we are in a whole new environment.
We are.
For those of you that are listening and not watching, we usually do this in our dining room, and now we're in a completely different room, and that's because why?
We're down in Corpus Christi visiting family.
Yeah. And we decided that the episode that we would record today is sort of about that.
Yeah.
It's about family. And I did a blog post that kind of took off not long ago about how to build a business without destroying your marriage.
Yes.
And I guess in our case, your family, since we have Frankie. And it did pretty well, and I got some great feedback on it. And I think it's one of the things that has been an observation for a lot of people, and they say it funny.
They always ask us, like, how do you guys manage to keep sanity and stay married, working together? And then they always add the underhanded, couldn't imagine doing that with my spouse. And you're like, oh.
So you're married and you have a family and you own a business and you work together all the time and you're both still alive. Huh?
And we're in the house all day long together.
But we like to say that we're around each other, but not with each other. Right? You're doing your thing, I'm doing my thing.
We really only talk at lunch.
Yeah, which is
unless we're on the job.
And that's what this is about today. So the first thing that I want to chat about that you and I kind of pre-framed was, why is this such sort of a thing? Why is this such an issue? And especially right now. And the one that we came up with is, life is hard. Just traditionally, conventionally, life is hard. There's ups and downs and struggles, and everybody's dealing with something. But when you are with each other a lot, when you have to decide on things that are personal, interpersonal, familial, and business, that's a lot of interaction, communication, responsibility, and a lot of relationships suffer and struggle because of just personal finances.
Right.
You had business finances. Yeah. So the reason it made a lot of sense to write the blog and then to have this conversation is to give people a peek behind the curtain.
Sure.
Of what our life is like. And I want to talk about something you said that's so insightful. But before we do that, I also want to point out that you and I agree that right now seems like it's harder than normal.
Yes. With everything just coming off of COVID and the shift in the economy, and just the powers that be are pushing this huge umbrella of just
stuff.
All this stuff that's always coming at
it feels like a
an
cloud.
Individual and a couple and a business and all the businesses. And it's not really an economy for small businesses.
It's really a struggle. And we can talk a bit about the fact that you and I have been doing this now for almost 2 decades together.
Yeah.
And on our own before that, we've seen the ups and downs.
Yeah.
We survived the mortgage lending issues of 8 and 9, some of the other struggles and shifts. Obviously, we were able to manage to survive the pandemic.
Yeah.
And so this is yet another struggle, but it's hard for everybody. Actually, I want to tell a quick anecdote. So people oftentimes are like, we're all in the same boat now. And it feels well-intended.
Yeah.
But somebody at one point said to me, that's not right. And I said, I don't disagree with you, but how do you say it?
Yeah.
And they said, we're all in the same storm.
Yeah.
And then they acknowledged that some of us are on yachts, some of us are on large boats, some of us are on small boats, some of us are on rafts, some of us are just trying to keep our head above water.
Like Titanic, they're just on a little piece.
They're on a door. By the way, there was plenty of room on the door for both of them.
They could have totally fit both of them on
totally
there.
Could have fit both.
And they would have stayed warm and would have made it.
I feel like it's really important that we just acknowledge those things before we kind of get going. And then you said something that was just so incredibly insightful that I love. As we were talking about the sort of insights and shifts that we've had all over the years, you just said, but all of that comes down to one key thing, and that's communication.
Absolutely. The communication is key, so to speak, because if you're not in there talking about the pain points, the joys, the wins, there's not a healthy environment in the psychology, right? And so I think that's one of the things I really have appreciated about how we've run our business and our marriage and our parenthood and all the things over the years is really sitting down and communicating about what goals are, what, expectations from each other are, and not in a business sense, but as in a kind approach, right? Like, I think that's clutch. And so as we kind of started forming our business, it was really important to have these communications because we had our zones of geniuses.
Oh, you're going to run right into the first one.
I am, because that is such a huge part of communicating. Like, hey, I don't like doing X, Y, and Z. Or, hey, babe, I know you love taking all the detail photos at a wedding, but I want to do that too. Having those kind of communications over the years have allowed us to strengthen and know, I am not the logistics person. Dawn is the logistics person. And so, but we were figuring that out together at the beginning and communicating about it. And Dawn's like, okay, your 2-sentence email replies is probably not the best approach to a client.
Yeah, that was one of the things that took us a bit, but then became one of the most important.
Yes.
So like the first realization we had was respect the zone of genius. At the time, I didn't have the language to even say it that way.
Yeah, you didn't really even know what that meant, right?
I picked up on the zone of genius, and we've talked about it before, from The Big Leap, right? By Gay Hendricks. Really, I think, insightful book. So if you're a book reader or listener, go check that one out. The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. But there are certain things. It's also referred to as strength buckets.
Sure,
is another way to say it. As a communications major, I could not agree with you more about the importance of communication. But when it comes to this idea that there are just certain things we are predisposed to doing well, to doing efficiently, to doing productively. And so, for us, when we were doing weddings, you were the creative lead.
Right.
I was the logistics lead.
Yeah.
And that was pre, during, post, all of that.
Yeah.
So the logistics lead, I was the timeline person. I reviewed things with the planners and the couple. And then on the day that we showed up, you were immediately thinking about what are the images that I want to create here that are unique and different, that might take time, that I can construct. And I was more hey, let's do all the formal photos. And I would sort of choreograph the day in a way that was logistically driven.
Right.
Not because necessarily even I liked doing that more, but I was sort of, quote, better at it.
Yeah. And that carried over into corporate world. So Dawn, when we started off in the wedding and social market, Dawn, just on the day of shooting, so to speak, Dawn would be the one, okay, you're taking the lead on, we're going to do all these formal photos. We have to do them in a certain period of time. And because of Dawn's skill set and this is also being a public speaker, you're able to direct attention very well and in a very respectful way, where I'm a little bit more soft-spoken. And so I mean, I can carry their attention, but I'm like, okay, this is Dawn's strength bucket. And this carried over into the corporate world. And so we would be going to these events, we're photographing together, huge, like Funnel Hacking Live or something like that. You know, we were specifically hired on some of these jobs because Dawn's ability to be like, okay, we have to accomplish these photos, awards photos, and, you know, it's awesome that they had hundreds and hundreds of winners, but you only have 2 hours to take these pictures. And so the communication, and so that was like like, let Dawn's, you know, shine in this moment. This is, and me knowing like, hey, this is not where I'm at, but I like to take the creative side angles and the watch for the moments in between. And so that's where we started over time figuring out how we filled in those moments really well. And our clients really appreciated having both perspectives coming in, you know. So I always, during Wedding World, it was taking photos of the wedding party from the side because it's more of a candid moment where they, you know, moms and grandmas really wanted that formal moment from the front that Dawn was, you know, so having those strength buckets, but then that goes into life too, back home, right? So Dawn's running logistics on emails and all this stuff in the business, and I'm doing editing, and so Dawn's lift was a lot, and still is a lot of times the front of the job, and then my lift is at the back end of the job, right? And so because then as I'm editing and finishing up those elements, you're already on to the next job, right? And so it's a really positive flow that works well, and communicating. And so sometimes I'm like, okay, Funnel Hacking Live, we know that there's thousands and thousands of images because we have 4 photographers photographing simultaneously. And so we know that the job is a Herculean lift on the edit afterwards. So we photograph for a week straight, and then we've got this huge amount of data and art that flows through a filter, which is my brain of keeping it consistent, right? You know, consistent edits and stuff. So I mean, it all kind of ties back to finding where your strength buckets are, but in communication about it, because you're like, I don't really like editing that much. I like being on the job and photographing. And so I'm like, I like the edit because that, to me, in my artistic brain, that's part of finishing the art, right?
Yeah, so I think it's important to acknowledge that it's about like and dislike, because I think we want to do what we like and we sometimes want to avoid what we don't. But it's also about learning and growing as we go too. Right. So, for example, it's not if I'm unavailable or if we need to deploy differently because of a unique circumstance, it's not that you can't do it.
No, I do it all,
you do
all
it
the
just
time.
great.
Yeah.
You do it just great.
But after some years of training.
Exactly.
Right.
Like, over the years, by communicating and by working and learning to and with and from each other, like, you've come away a stronger director of people in large groups.
Right. Yeah.
And I've become a little bit less logistical and sometimes a little bit more creative. And so it's really wonderful because it's not like only do what's in your zone of genius. It's respect the zone of genius. And we phrased it that way for a reason. It means that the opportunity presents itself for you to do a lot of what you love because it's what you're good at the same time, learn something that you're not, and then deploy accordingly. And I think that that's been key. I've
totally taken language from Dawn too, and Simon too. And like, hey, this is how we need to talk to certain clientele, and it's not just about art; it's about learning from each other and just taking those strengths and strengthening together. So.
It helps so much to respect that, to observe that, to learn and grow together. The next one that we identified that was. I've been doing this for the last 20 something years. The first person that ever said this to me was when I was in hotels still. And it was about relationships as much as it was about business. And that's this notion that relationships are 50-50, right?
Right.
And that everybody has to, do their fair share in equal margin and equal measure. And there's a couple of reasons that I dislike that so much. Number one it's binary.
Right.
It's like 50-50, meaning like, your half and my half. And it means that if you're 51-49, you're out of balance.
Right.
Right. That you haven't achieved this goal of 50-50. And so what we like to say is it's 100-100. Everybody brings 100% of what they are, who they are, what they're capable of to the job. It doesn't really matter necessarily the division of labor,
right,
as much as it does the amount of passion and drive and effort you bring. And so the follow-up to like life isn't 50-50. Business, relationships, they're not 50-50.
No.
They're 90-10, 80-20, 60-40. Like sometimes you're more, sometimes you're less.
Yeah.
As long as everybody brings 100% to the table, the rest will figure it out. And the way this plays out for you and me, Emily, is, leading up to Funnel Hacking Live or any other large project, it's like 90-10.
Right.
I'm doing 90% of the work. I'm finding the business, booking the business, emailing with the client, reviewing timelines, reviewing
answering
diagrams,
all the questions, and
answering questions, going to pre-con meetings.
Yeah.
So it's like 90-10. Then during the conference itself, it's probably more 50-50.
It is, yeah.
Like we're really deployed. We're out doing the job. Sometimes maybe 60-40, sometimes 70-30 back and forth.
Yeah.
But ultimately it's a fairly kind of equal division of labor. And then on the backside, it's 90-10 again, except the 90 is you.
Yep.
And the 10 is me. And the beauty that you just pointed out was that's because you're wrapping that job. You're doing the logistics for the editing and the post-production. I'm on to the next 90-10 of the next project, the next client, the website update, the emailing, whatever it is. And I think that when people kind of can find the emotional maturity and the psychological flexibility to understand that sometimes you're the 10%.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're not as important. Sometimes you can't get the credibility. Sometimes you can't get the credit. Other times you're getting 90% of that and vice versa. Same thing with the share of labor. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah. And that goes for personal life too, right? Like it's sometimes somebody's trying to accomplish a personal goal. Mm-hmm. And so you're like, okay, they need 90% of the communal effort here because you want them to accomplish that. And we have a friend who just got their doctorate, and so their spouse, just has an amazing job too, but knew that he wanted to help her get there, and like that's a lift that they do together. He's like, I'm gonna take on the kids, I'm gonna do all this stuff, and so she can have those hours of clinicals and all those things to accomplish her goals. So.
Which is so unbelievably amazing, because when you realize that it's not about you, it's about the team.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, and other times it is about you.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's this opportunity to both give and get.
Yeah.
In, if not equal measure, at an individual point, equal measure over time.
But again, coming back to communicating about it, right? Don't be afraid to talk to your spouse about like, hey, I need this time right now, right? And because children and life will sometimes make you not observe that your significant other might need that moment. And so don't be afraid about going in and talking like, hey, this is something I really need to do for myself as a personal growth, or just like, having a minute to decompress or whatever it might be, but communicating about it so the other person isn't getting resentful of just not feeling that they have the same opportunity, right?
I want to make it personal for a second, because we are talking about business and life. One of the first things that I appreciated most about our growing relationship, and when I realized that I was in love with you and that we were going to be in this forever, our relationship was one of the most productive and adult relationships I'd ever been in which I didn't worry about myself, because I knew you always had my back.
Yeah. And
you were always looking out for me. And what that looked like was very rarely did I have to say like, I'm burnt, I'm stressed, I'm feeling anxiety, I'm this or that. You were so in tune, and you were so concerned and so loving that you would see it first.
Yeah.
Or you would see it at the same time. And before I even had a chance to like tap out, you'd be like, Dawn, I'm picking up that you need a break. And what I'd love to see you happen is like, I'm going to do this, that, or the other. I want you to go take some time. What do you need? What can I do? And I think that's what it takes.
Yeah.
It takes that intuition. It takes that appreciation and love and commitment.
Absolutely. And those of you that have kids are hard.
Mhm.
And so sometimes you need a little checkout time from that too, right?
Mhm.
And it's okay to communicate with your spouse about like, hey, we're going through some hard stuff with the terrible twos. I need a few minutes to go for a walk with the dog or something.
It's amazing when you live in a relationship where you can ask for it, but don't always have to.
But you don't
because
always
the person
have to.
does it first.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So that comes back to the next thing, having a foundation built on trust.
Yes.
I don't know how many relationships have this because I'm so fortunate to exist in this place, but like I literally trust you with anything and everything in my life.
Absolutely. Me too. I was thinking about this as I was kind of making some notes about what to talk about. I was like, I've never had a doubt in this moment, and how fortunate do I feel to have that ability and that honor to feel that way, because I do know that there's a lot of people that don't have that in their lives. And so I feel very, very fortunate to never doubt that.
Mm-hmm.
Like
it's easy to take for granted once you've had it, and you've had it as long as we have, but it's not, I don't think it's particularly common.
No.
I think that it's something that I think it's definitely something you either have or don't, but at the same time, I think it's something you can cultivate.
Yeah.
Because it takes vulnerability to trust someone. And that's a dirty word for a lot of people because they equate vulnerability to weakness.
Yeah. And it could be how they're raised, or,
where they come from, or
significant others from previous relationships or parents or things like that. So
you have to find that trust to say, yes, honey, whatever you say, I totally believe in this. Yep. I'm on board. Without sort of worrying or feeling as though there's a lack of trust there.
Right.
Like I find that that's incredibly destructive. In all three of the things we've been talking about, like kind of personal, interpersonal, family, right? And the business and all that. It's so important and it has to be the foundation, right? We wrote it that way specifically, again, words matter.
Yeah, I do.
That it can't just be like, oh yeah, we trust each other. Yeah. There has to be sort of a bedrock foundation of trust that you exist on. The other thing is, with that, shared accountability.
Absolutely.
We say frequently, because when you respect zones of genius, you have, not everything is a combination of decisions. Like we don't check with each person all the time, every time. And so that trust leads to, we win together, we lose together.
Right.
We win together, we learn together.
Yeah.
And so, you and I were talking about examples of it. If someone misses something, makes a mistake, if a client comes back, which I'm very fortunate to say doesn't happen often, but if someone comes back and says, well, we kind of missed the mark here, there is no like, oh, well, Emily did that, or Dawn edited that photo. It's, oh, you know what? We, pronoun. We are so sorry that we missed the mark on that. Or when somebody comes back and says, this is the most amazing thing I've ever experienced in my whole life, whether you photographed it or I photographed it, or you edited it or I edited it, or you booked it or I booked it, it doesn't matter. We win together.
I was thinking about this moment because in our specific little bubble, Dawn works upstairs in the office and I work downstairs. And so, because Dawn's on calls and stuff all the day and I'm doing music and all that stuff. So we have our little areas. And so sometimes, I'm always listening and Dawn's always listening too. And so I'll hear like a challenge. So sometimes the wins and loses are like, hey, Dawn's been working with this potential client for a month trying to book them, right? And it's a lot of pressure on Dawn to do that because they're in that first 90-10%, right? And then we get the dreaded email that this new potential client went a different direction because of budget or not the same artistic endeavor or whatever. And so I'll go upstairs and we'll have that moment together of like, I'm so sorry because you spent so much of that 90-10 in that moment, right? And so we go up there and have that moment together, and it is not a Don did it, it's a we did it, you know? And we sit in it and we mourn that, like, okay, loss of time or whatnot. And that just goes with owning your business. Like it happens. But then other times I'm downstairs and I'm hearing victory, you know, and like, okay, we just booked this huge client and I'm so excited. They're flying us to Costa Rica and we're like, oh, this is badass, you know, and then we're celebrating those moments. Or Don's like, hey, check your email and we'll get our review on the job. And so those are the wins of like, yes, that client's super happy and they're already booked us for next year. And so those are, you know, those things you live together in, and you joyous moments and the down moments, and it grows you together too, you know.
It feels really supportive, because when you are the 90 and you feel the weight of that, and you know that your significant other, your spouse, your business partner is going to come to you and say, I'm really sorry. I know you worked really hard to book that piece of business, and I know that we weren't in their budget. You know, thank you for all the hard work you put into that. It's affirming. And you're already likely kind of giving yourself a hard time. You're asking yourself, what could I have done differently?
What could I have done differently?
And if you have somebody that comes upstairs and is like, well, what happened? Well, what'd you do? Could you have done, like, did you not get back to one time? If you have someone that comes up that kind of piles on, that doesn't mean that there isn't an opportunity to learn what could we do better. But it's, again, that pronoun, like, well, is there anything we could have done? Or, you know, hey, listen, you know, nobody has 100% conversion rate, and you win some, you lose some. It really is so incredibly comforting to know that again, celebrate the wins together, learn from the losses together, which is kind of a great tangent into the next point. And that's, we talk about life behind the lens. When you are an individual, a couple, a family, and a business, all four things, it's easy for them to all become one thing. And that's okay to a degree, because there's nothing I like more than work-life integration. As I sit in my sister's home, 8 driven hours away from our home, where my daughter's getting ready to go in the pool, playing with her cousins, and I get to spend quality time with my family, and we're here recording a podcast and doing work. That is joyful to me. There's a certain point at which you have to understand how to turn it off. And that to me is, we're going to talk about implementation next. It's my favorite Asian. Implementation is my favorite Asian, because we could talk about this all day long, but how do you actually put it to work? One of them is just understanding that not only does this get to be your entire life, but you get to compartmentalize it. And there are times when it's family time, and time when it's business time, and time when it's this and that. And so, do you have anything you want to add to that, or do we want to jump right into like the work, how to make it happen?
I would say let's jump into the work, because what I would add to it is part of that.
Okay, so literally one of the first things that we listed out when we said, how do we actually make this work? Where does the rubber hit the road, as the old saying goes? It is respecting those 4 things. So we respect the individual, the couple, the family, and the business. In a way, for me, it's setting time aside for date time. Now, Emily and I don't like go out to fancy dinners. It's not our jam. But we'll say, hey, tonight while Frankie's in her 2-hour taekwondo to do, you know, learning and instruction, let's drop her off and go have a happy hour, drink and appetizer. And in that 2 hours, we're not really to focus on business improvement or
talking about Frankie,
much as we love her. That's like a 2-hour window of time where we talk about Emily's music, or, you know, my wellness journey, or even my writing or speaking. It's outside of this particular business. So even though it's work, it's different work. And so we just find ways to sort of not get lost in the process of being these 4 things all at one time. Does that make sense? And for you, obviously, and again, let me just mention them. You have your individual, couple, family, in business. For you, your individual journey for the last few years has been making music.
Yeah, rediscovering that part of myself. And what does that mean, right? Like, first it went from, just hobby, kind of fun, and now it's developing into business endeavors because I'm an entrepreneurial person and I can't help it. But that's just how it goes. And so finding that moment to just kind of develop yourself personally is really important. So you've got developing your couple, but coming back, if this temple isn't in a good place, then the temple together isn't going to be in a good place, and then the temple together with the family, and then business. So you need to kind of circle it back and work on yourself individually, whether it's like going to work out or, I was telling the story earlier, a lot of my peers in our 40s are kind of, coming out of this. If you have children, you're coming out of this like, okay, I'm a mom, I'm a parent, I'm a father. But I've lost a part of who I used to be. It's not about losing, it's about redeveloping that and into the new umbrella, right? And I think it's really important to make sure you're communicating and like, hey, I need to have this. And because I'm so very fortunate, like I do have a spouse that I don't need to say that. They already know that. So, but not everybody's like that. Everybody has different communication skills with their spouses. So you take that time to be like, yeah, I need to develop this part of myself. I need to go have a workout, Pilates every Tuesday, like just cutting some of that time to rediscover who you are keeps a healthy balance there. So the individual brings in a healthy couple, right?
And builds a healthy family and then creates an opportunity to succeed in business because you've created the roadmap, basically.
And rediscovering as an older you know, like it's not going to be exactly the same as your 20-something self. So.
There are many things that are not the same about 20-something self. You've again created a wonderful channel into the next step, which was yours. Having a system to communicate, right? So we said earlier, communication is key. It is not always easy to communicate.
No.
There's emotions involved. There's hard conversations to be had.
Yes.
And so it was your point to create a system for consistent and bigger communications.
Yes.
And so one of the notes that I made was it could mean like a certain series of words that you use or a system or process you use. So like, you say things like, oh, I want to talk about that. It comes casual. Whereas if you have a very distinct way in which you say it, a place that you go, like, hey, we need to go onto the patio, go to, to the office. I need to have
or say a word like, this is coming from love, but pineapple.
Right. Gotta have a pineapple conversation.
We're having a pineapple conversation because sometimes it's not all flowers and fluffy kitties. Sometimes it's hard. It's like, hey, I'm disappointed in this moment. Don't like that way we communicated in this moment. Like, you have to set that place of where you're going to go in there. And although it may be painful as you're maybe the person that's getting the critique, knowing that it's coming from a place of love and an opportunity for growth, right?
Yep.
And so because you're mixing this relationship with business, you have to, with your business partner, you have to be like, hey, sometimes this was maybe not the best way to have approached this client, or, like, for me, like, hey, the timeline on the editing, we promised that, and not being hurt by that, because I am momming, I got a driver to all the things, like, you have to just be able to have that communication and not get offended by it, right?
There's an opportunity at every moment to understand that there's accountability.
Yeah.
There's a consistency, there's professionalism, there's all these things that you're working into these for things that are oftentimes for people separate.
Right.
And in this environment, they're together,
Yeah.
right? The individual, the couple, the family, and the business are all existing under one roof. Getting feedback, because it's not always interpersonal. Sometimes you're going to have conversations about money.
Yeah.
Do we buy this thing? Do we not buy this thing? Do we go
Yeah.
on this trip? Do we not go on this trip? Do we invest in this thing? Do we not invest in this thing?
Right.
And it's, again, not just personal finances. You're talking about business finances. So you have to have a channel and a communication strategy that doesn't set you up for failure.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've learned in my time that I share with a lot of the people we have the pleasure of working with is feedback is neutral.
Right.
When somebody says to you something constructive, criticism is not ideal. Just to be critical is not ideal.
No.
When you have something that's constructive that you're offering to create change, to iterate, to better,
to learn.
that is 100% neutral.
Yeah.
And I think what happens is people automatically assume that if something's offered to them that's constructive, it's negative. It's a personal attack. It's an assault. If you can live in a place where feedback is neutral, you're like, great. Thank you for caring for me and for loving our business enough to share that with me.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. It changes everything. You went on further to say, and this is our last sort of like implementational piece of advice that is, we talked about it in a previous episode.
Yeah.
It's critical. Not only do you create these inroads and these consistent check-ins, but you have to have a routine way of doing it on a larger scale.
Yes.
And so we talked about the fact that like as much as weekly, monthly, quarterly, and then annually, having a dedicated and confined container in which you have conversations and check-ins, like start, stop, and change is something you and I have worked on for tons of years. Like, what are we doing that we don't want to do anymore? What are we not doing that we want to do? And what are we doing that we might want to do differently? Like, you start answering those questions and you use the magic word, alignment.
Yes. Making sure you guys are both in alignment, because if you're not, that's when you're going to start seeing a lot of run-ins, right? And so making those moves together and respecting each other in those moves, like, okay, Emily wants to do more portraiture or like that, then we're going to kind of, and does it make sense to start that right now, and things like that. And that goes into family too, like making sure our alignment with things that Frankie are doing, you know, with time and finances and all that stuff. It's just really important to make sure you guys are aligned in the same goals, and for your personal life, with your business life, you know.
And I think it's important to point something out, because words matter.
Yes.
Alignment doesn't mean agreement.
Right.
So you and I have talked about things. I'm going to use your hypothetical analogy of like portraiture.
Sure.
Let's say you had this kind of wild hair and you're like, I want to do more portraiture. I want to drive that. I want to do more and more and more of that. When we talk about the things that we've identified today, what that would look like is alignment means, listen, I love that for you, but I don't love that for me. That doesn't mean, well, good luck with that.
Right.
It means that I'm in alignment with that you want to do more portraiture.
Right.
And based on our sort of division of labor and our strength buckets and our zones of genius and all the things we've talked about, I might say something like, well, great. Why don't I put together a marketing campaign to do more portraiture, highlighting your capabilities as a photographer and the benefits to the client.
Yeah.
And then we'll start booking them, and then you'll start shooting and editing them. And then I'll start delivering and creating opportunities for testimonials to generate marketing for tomorrow.
Right.
To do more portraiture.
Right.
That you'll then capture and edit.
Right.
And then that I will. And so that's how kind of alignment works. It doesn't mean that we agree on everything.
Right.
There has to be a certain amount of agreements, but ultimately that's the implementation of, the things that we've talked about today, from a perspective of, we've had a meeting or we've had a sit down, or Emily's been ruminating on something and suddenly she's made a decision that she wants to go forward with. Loving and caring and wanting the business to succeed means that I'll do everything in my power to create that, and vice versa.
But also knowing, like, okay, this is a 2-year plan, not a tomorrow plan, right?
Managing expectations 100%, is also a thing. Yeah.
Like being realistic with each other's amount of time too, and respecting that, right? Like, hey, I'd love to start this new blah, 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 but I'm also like, let's make sure we're like not killing Todd in the process.
Well, and
so,
that's the way it worked for us.
Yeah.
Right. And we talked about it on the last episode, right? You don't dig the well when you're thirsty.
Right. Yeah.
And so if you come up with an idea and we're going to implement it, then we create, we use those weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annual things to say, okay, what does the deployment of this look like? How long will it take us? Can we start booking the business? How do we start booking the business? And vice versa, whatever the case is. It really, it's how the system has worked for us.
Yes.
It's how these 4 or 5 ideas that we're giving the audience have played out over 20 years.
Yes.
The other example you used was when we started to move away from weddings and we wanted to grow our corporate, there was a conversation that was had.
Absolutely.
Do you support the idea of either doing less weddings and increasing the pricing of those weddings and bringing on more corporate?
Yeah, because you have 2 different artists at work.
It's a very different art.
Right.
Very different art. Yeah. And so had it been, no, I want to do just as many weddings as I've always done, then there's other solutions, right? Okay, well, great. Well, I'm going to do more corporate and you're going to stay with the weddings and we're going to bring on more associate photographers and we're going to figure out a way to make it so those both things happen. So I feel very fortunate to be in the environment that we're in. And, just before we wrap, gotta say it. It's not all unicorns and puppy dogs, kitty cats, rainbows and all that. There have been very difficult conversations, financial ones, logistical ones, familial ones. So just going back up to the very top of this conversation, life is hard.
Yeah.
These are just some tools, some ideas, some strategies, and some tactical ways to implement the things that have worked really well for us. The last thing that I love to say and that I want to say to you is it always remains that I love doing life with you.
I love doing life with you too.
And so when you figure this out and you can put these things to work, there is no better existence in my world, and things will shift and change over time. But ultimately, showing up every day as an individual, as a couple, as a family, and as a business, I just love doing life with you.
I love doing life more with you.
There's the battle. There's the competition. Okay, so I think that's a wrap for today.
I think so.
If any or all of this sounds familiar, we always invite you to go visit sheddingthewedding.com to learn more about what we're doing and what we're creating.
Yes.
With the corporate client capture system. I would love to know if you're out there and you're in business and you're in life with a partner or a spouse and you've intertwined your romantic and familial and business lives. Tell us how that is going for you. Tell us the story.
And what is a thing that works really well for you? Give us some tips too. Yeah. I'd love to hear like, hey, you guys didn't mention this, but this works really well for us.
Yeah.
That would be really awesome to hear.
We learn with and from each other.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love doing life with you.
I love doing life with you. Bye.
You're creative, you're knowledgeable, and you've got all the experience and professional gear you'll need.
It's time to leverage it all in a whole new market full of loyal clients.
Remember, it's not about more, it's about different and better.
Hit subscribe, leave us a review, so other creatives can find their way to us on Hocus Focus.
Join us next week for more magic behind your wildly successful studio.
I'm Don.
I'm Emily.
Thanks for listening.